In this video, I want to show you a groundbreaking case in neuroscience that showed just how much we use emotions to make decisions, because we think that we're mostly logical and a little bit emotional. But what science ended up showing was that our decisions are tremendously emotional. And this is a real case from neuroscience. I'll show you the details in a second, but look at the title: How Only Being Able to Use Logic to Make Decisions Destroyed a Man's Life. And I'll have the link to this article in the resources of this video so you can read this on your own. It's fascinating. And in this video, I'll give you the highlights so that the video doesn't get too long. But the article starts out by highlighting how many of the major philosophers valued logic and highlighted how much we should be logical when making decisions. And sure, logic definitely has a place in our decision making. But how do we know what we deem as good, desirable, what we want in our life? These are things that are dictated by emotion. Emotion gives us clues about what's good, what's not good, what's preferable, and then we make logical decisions on how to get there. But our emotional feelings about all these things essentially create the entire foundation of the choices in our life. So this was the case. That patient's name was kept private. He's just known as Elliot. This was a successful person, high IQ individual, successful in career. You see, it says here he had a brain tumor, and the brain tumor wounded the frontal lobe tissue of his brain. And before that, he had a good job at a business firm, a role model for his colleagues, a good husband. So he had a full life, essentially. And he started getting headaches and eventually had to get the tumor removed. And the neuroscientist who worked with him was Antonio Damasio, who is a legend in neuroscience, one of the most reputable researchers in it. He did work a few decades ago, but his work was foundational. So when Elliot came to him as a patient after all the problems started happening, Elliot, it says here, was still pleasant, charming, and well aware of the day's news and what area of business he worked in. He had a good memory, but at the same time, his life had fallen apart. Any projects he did on the job were either left incomplete or had to be corrected, eventually leading to his loss of job. He got involved in like a money-making scheme with some shady characters. It ended up getting him to bankruptcy. He got divorced, married again to somebody that his family didn't approve, divorced again. Basically, his life fell apart. So he was still logical, but his life was falling apart. And doctors thought, well, he should be able to work. He seemed normal. And you see, many of his mental facilities were intact. So this was a conundrum, like, why can't he resume his life? His brain was working just fine, it seemed. And then the researcher, Antonio Damasio, he learned that Elliot, when he was at work, he might spend like an entire afternoon trying to figure out how to categorize his documents. Should it be organized by date or by case he's working on or by the size of the document? His cognitive facilities were still good. He tested well in IQ tests. Long-term memory was good, short-term memory was good, language skills were good, but he just couldn't live a normal life. It says here, like, he couldn't make plans for a few hours in advance. And then the realization here that this researcher had, Damasio, he realized that it wasn't an issue of intelligence, it was an issue of a disconnect with emotions. When Elliot took a test with lots of emotionally charged images, like burning buildings, gruesome accidents, what this researcher found was that this patient's emotions were always neutral. So his emotional compass could no longer tell him what's good, what's bad. He couldn't rely on emotions anymore to determine that. So everything felt equal. And so he wasn't able to determine what's good, what's bad, how he should live his life, what decisions to make, because he could no longer tell which option was good or bad because those were emotionally determined. And this is what people for thousands of years didn't realize. People always thought, oh, it's logic. But how we see good or bad in just about anything, from major things to minor things in life, that's emotionally driven. And it says here, he was able to come up with many options, like If he had a challenge, he could come up with many solutions, but he could just not decide which is better. So without emotions, he just couldn't value or evaluate anything. So one of the conclusions here is that when emotion is impaired, so is decision making. So that's this case in neuroscience, which shows the tremendous extent to which our decisions are very strongly emotionally driven.